Welcome to the Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Kate Harper, the 61st District in Montgomery County. Have you heard of some of these things? Phishing, and I don't mean with a fishing rod, an IRS phone scam, caller ID spoofing, or how about the grandparent scam? While the technology and the methods change, one thing remains the same. There are always people out there trying to cheat other people and take away their money. But there are ways to protect yourself and to look out for things. And that's what we'll be discussing on today's program. My guest is Corporal Adam Reed from the Pennsylvania State Police. And Corporal Reed's going to update us on the newest schemes and give us some tips on how to avoid becoming a victim of one of these scams. Corporal Reed, welcome to the program.
Representative, thanks for having me.
Well, I always start out by having my guest explain where you grew up and how you got to be where you are today as a corporal in the state police. So
sure,
tell
absolutely.
us where you came from.
Absolutely. So I'm originally from Allegheny County, Pittsburgh area, a little town called Elizabeth in Allegheny County. And I joined the state police in 2006 after graduating from the University of Pittsburgh. And I've been out here ever since 2006. I graduated our academy here in Hershey and was stationed at our PSP Carlisle station locally in Cumberland County here. I worked patrol for almost 7 years before moving on to the PR side of law enforcement. So right now, my current title is the Director of the Communications Office with the Pennsylvania State Police. Okay,
so in that role that you're now playing, do you see these scams out there, and do you know what we've got to be telling people to look out for?
Absolutely. So as a patrol trooper, I investigated a lot of these scams, so I have firsthand knowledge of the schemes that our criminals use to try to trick people. And also now on the PR side of things, I go out and do a lot of public outreach and public education about these scams.
Okay, so one I've heard about and is still being played, even though you would think everybody knows about it, is called the grandparent scam. Somebody calls up and says, hey, granny or grandma, I need some money. And the grandma says, Joe? Yeah, this is Joe, and it's not. Can you tell us how that works?
Right. It's really unfortunate. And the thing that makes it easy for these criminals is these grandmother calls don't require any background research on their end. They'll call a cold call and say, Grandma, do you know who this is? And they're relying on that person on the other end of the phone to say, Johnny, is that you? Yes, Grandma, that's me. That's me.
And they didn't know that she had a grandson named Johnny.
Absolutely. Okay. So they're fishing for that information. And it's really easy for those criminals to make these sorts of calls, relying that the people are going to be tricked into thinking it's their grandson. The calls will then go on to say, Grandma, I have some bad news. I was in Canada, for example, with my friends, and we were fishing. We got caught fishing without a license and got arrested. So I need you to send me money to pay my fine. Can you do that for me? Hoping that they'll say, absolutely, how could I get you the money?
I bet a lot of grandmothers do.
Yes, they do, and it's very unfortunate because obviously they want to do what's best, thinking it's their grandson.
So how do people even know it's not their grandson? Sometimes, you know, it happens so fast, they're not expecting to be scammed. What should they do when they get a call like that?
Absolutely. So we hate to say it, but it's important for people to be a little bit skeptical anytime they get a cold call like that.
Well, let me just say this. As the mother of sons, if any grandmother gets a call from one of her grandsons, she probably should be skeptical anyway. Usually I have to make them call.
Sure, absolutely. So what we urge people to do, if you get a suspicious call like this that you think might be a scam, ask to get a number to call them back and simply say, I will call you back, I'm going to check in on this. Hang up the phone and call your family. Call your son, daughter to see what your grandson might be up to.
All right, was Johnny in Canada fishing? I just got this call.
Yes, absolutely. And unfortunately, the answer is probably going to be no. He's sitting on the couch right in front of me as we speak. He's not in Canada.
But people want to be helpful, and especially if the caller sounds like they're in distress.
Sure.
That's just an act, isn't it?
It is. Unfortunately, it is just an act. And they prey upon that natural instinct to help, especially help your grandson in a case like this.
So what other things might they say? The tip-off would be, I need money, right?
Right. Absolutely. Wire me money, or send me money any way you can, or send credit card information. So we really urge people not to give away any personal sensitive information like credit card information or even social security numbers over the phone.
To your grandson?
Right, I know. They will use every trick in the book to try to get you to send up money. We've even seen a variation of this where the caller reports to be a law enforcement officer from that area or from that country, and they say, here is how you could wire me the money to our office to get your grandson out of trouble.
And it's not even going to Canada. It's probably going to
Absolutely.
someplace else.
Unfortunately,
right?
it's probably going overseas somewhere.
Okay. So maybe what the grandma should do is say, give me your number. I'll call you right back. I got somebody at the door or something like that.
Oh, sure. Use
You
any
know?
trick in the book. Absolutely. Certainly, if it's going to be legit, the person on the other end of that phone is going to be just fine with waiting a few minutes while you do your research and call them back.
Right. Okay. So what is phishing? And when I say phishing, I mean with a P-H-I-S-H-I-N-G.
Yes.
What is phishing?
Not with an F. So phishing is basically an unsolicited way to try to get personal, sensitive information from somebody. It might be in the form of a phone call, or in many cases, it's in the form of an email or a message that might pop up on your computer.
I get a lot of instant messages. I have a lot of Facebook friends.
Sure.
And you can join me on Facebook, okay? But I do have a lot of Facebook friends, so I get these messages, and they're odd.
Yes.
Like, how are you today? Really?
Sure.
Who's asking me that? So I delete them. Is that one of the ways people do phishing?
Yeah, absolutely. It could be Facebook, any form of social media, or like I said, email and phone calls as well. We tell people to really trust your gut. If you don't know that person, don't get involved in a conversation with them, and certainly don't give out any kind of personal information, whether it's your date of birth, address, social security number, bank account information, or credit card information over the phone or email unsolicited.
Well, can't I give my bank account information to the bank?
You sure can, but it's important that you know who you're speaking to, and you know that
You have to know it is the
truly
bank.
the bank. Yes.
And by the way, if it's the bank, they already know your account information,
Very true.
so they don't have to ask for it.
Absolutely.
All right, so I get an email. What would the email say?
So the email would use any number of tricks to try to get you to provide that information. A common one that we see would be, you have an issue with your computer, and I will help you fix that issue if you give me money by giving me your credit card information or giving me your bank account information.
So I've heard it said that it's good advice never to give out your social security number or your credit card information unless you make the call.
Absolutely.
So if somebody calls you and asks for that information, you say, give me a phone number and I'll call you back.
Absolutely. It goes back to doing your research. So
And
look
then-
into that and know who you're speaking with.
I also have seen on my own computer emails that might look like they're coming from Visa or something like that,
Yes.
and they're not really Visa, are they? How does that
No,
work?
they're not. And the very tricky thing about that is these criminals could get very, very official looking emails and even websites to make you think that you're looking at the real thing when it's really not. So pay attention. If you're looking up the URL of that website,
What's
make-
a URL to those of us who
So-
just know how to turn the computer on
Absolutely.
and off, okay?
The URL is the website address that you type in. For example, www.pncbank.com.
Okay, but sometimes you hit it, you click on something that's in an email.
Yes,
And so can you look at that URL also?
you can. So you have to compare what website opens up as a result of you clicking on that email to the real website that you know is the true and correct version.
Which
Because
you find by Googling it.
Exactly. You find it by Googling it, and sometimes the fake websites are just a letter or two off in the web address, even though the websites might look almost identical.
So you look at that little line at the top of your screen and see whether you're actually at a PNC bank or whatever bank
Yes.
it is website.
Absolutely.
Okay, what are some other scams that you've seen in your line of work?
So we covered the email scams, we covered the grandma calls. Those are two of the biggest ones.
They're very common.
They're very common, all too common, unfortunately. Another one that we see sometimes is dealing with seniors' investment scams. So you have somebody that brings a great idea to make a lot of money very quickly.
And a lot of seniors are worried because they're on a
Sure.
fixed income, and if they could make some money, it would be easier on them.
Absolutely. So they may say, hey, how do you want to invest in this stock to make thousands of dollars overnight? I could help you do that. And they hope that the people take advantage of that and say, sure, help me make this money however you can. But in reality, it's a scheme, and they're just looking to prey upon people to get their money.
And how does it work?
So they promise you riches, more or less, and they say, if you pay me $10,000, I'm going to turn that $10,000 into $100,000 in a week. You just need to give me that $10,000, and I'll do that for you as soon as I can. In many cases, once they get that money, they're gone.
Okay, now one I've seen that is pretty, I would think, persuasive if I weren't, looking for a scam, is one where they ask you, can I mail you a check for $4,000? You can take $1,000 as your fee for taking my check. So how does that one work?
Absolutely. We see this oftentimes when people are selling things on eBay or even the website Craigslist to buy and sell or trade goods. So say you have a couch for sale on Craigslist that you're trying to sell, or eBay. You're selling that couch for $500. You might get, again, here's the theme, an unsolicited call or email saying, I'm very interested in that item, or in this case, the couch that you're selling. However, I'm going to send you a check for $2,000, but I know that couch you're only selling it for $500. You cash that check for me, you send me the difference, but in addition to the $500, keep an extra $300. So you send me that $1,200 difference, you wire it back to me.
Right, and you're thinking, I got the check, it clears,
Absolutely.
Or at least I deposited, it seems to be good.
Absolutely.
I'm making $300 for this. This is
yes,
easy.
For sure. So then the catch comes in. Once you get that check in the mail and you take it to your bank and cash it, it might be hours, it might be a day, but your bank turns around and says, you know what, that check that you brought me for the $2,000, we found that it's fraudulent. We found that it's not a real check. So you're out of money.
So they take it out of your account to make up for it.
They take it out of your account, and by that time, often, you've already wired the bad guy the money that they requested.
Right, and your money's good.
Absolutely.
Right, so that's a problem. I guess, how could people avoid being taken in by that scam? They have to wait, or they have to demand cash if they're selling their couch, or how does that work?
Yeah, sure.
How do you deal with that? Because people do like to use eBay or other sites to sell things.
Sure. One of the big indicators that we've seen when we've taken a look at these unsolicited emails is the grasp of the English language that the criminals or the bad guys have when they're reaching out isn't very good. So if you get an email that doesn't read correctly, or you could tell the person writing it does not comprehend English very well, that's a big red flag.
Okay. So what should you do? Delete it, report it, whatever. How does that work?
Absolutely. So you could do both. Feel free to simply delete it, or you could report it to eBay, or even your local police if you think it's something is fishy with it.
All right. The other thing I have seen is you click on something. You know you're on, I don't know, Facebook or Google or something like that, and something pops up, and you click on it, and it infects your computer.
Right.
How does that work?
Yeah, unfortunately, computer viruses are really common now as well. Some will even demand money from you to get rid of that virus on your computer. But if nothing else, you're probably going to need to buy a new computer if you can't get the virus out. So it's important to have some really good cybersecurity settings on your computer to prevent these sort of things.
Right, it's called ransomware or something?
Yes, it's called ransomware, absolutely.
Because to get out of the mess you're in because you clicked on something, you either buy a new computer or you pay some scam artist some money.
Yes, unfortunately. And some of these ransomwares even allow the criminals to get access into the files on your computer. So if you have important information like banking information or checking information, things like that, credit card information.
QuickBooks or whatever, they can get into your bank account or at least know where it is, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, so hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break, and Legislative Report will return in just a moment. Stay with us.
Did you know that Act 16 of 1999 honors one of the greatest leaders in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives? The Matthew J. Ryan Legislative Office Building, once known as the Capitol Annex, is located next to the main Capitol building and honors the late Speaker of the House, Matthew J. Ryan. Those who visit this building will observe the magnificent architectural designs providing eloquence and grandeur to the building. Known as one of the greatest members in the history of the Pennsylvania State House, Matthew Ryan started his career in the legislature in 1963 and was elected Speaker in 1981. His charisma and knowledge will forever be reflected in the building now named after this great legislative leader. Now you know.
Did you know that Violet Oakley was the first female artist to receive a large commission for artwork done in a United States Capitol building? In 1902, Joseph Houston, designer and architect for the 3rd Harrisburg Capitol building, commissioned Violet Oakley to paint murals for the governor's reception room. He believed that Oakley's contribution would add interest to the building and act as an encouragement of women of the state. Prior to beginning her work for the Capitol, Oakley set out to England to conduct research for her murals. Upon return, she decided to center her artwork on William Penn and the founding of Pennsylvania. Oakley made sure that Penn's ideals of justice and peace could be seen throughout her work. In 1906, she completed 13 murals titled The Founding of the State of Liberty Spiritual and was placed in sequential order around the governor's reception room. These murals were some of the first to be installed in the Capitol. When Edwin Austin Abbey, another artist for the Capitol, died in 1911, Oakley was offered another opportunity to create murals for the unfinished Senate and Supreme Court chambers. Her work on the Senate murals, including International Understanding, was completed by 1919. Oakley then completed the Supreme Court murals, including the Divine Law, by 1927. Oakley is said to be the principal artist for the Capitol with a total of 43 murals on display. She remains one of the greatest muralists in the United States. Now you know.
Welcome back to Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Kate Harper, and today my guest is Corporal Adam Reed from the Pennsylvania State Police. We have a pretty serious subject we're discussing. We're talking about how people can get scammed by unscrupulous scam artists who are out there for the sole purpose of doing it and taking their money or something else.
Right.
Now, in my district, I did have a problem where there were these guys going around saying, we'll seal or pave your driveway or something. Can we talk about scams that might even happen at your front door as opposed to on your computer?
Right. So a lot of what we talked about is over the phone or over email, but we also see a lot of in-person scams taking place. A common one that we do see is the driveway scam. Somebody might knock on your door and say, hey, I seal driveways, I fix driveways, and I just happen to have a little bit of sealant left, and I was driving by and I noticed that your driveway looks like it could use some. Would you be interested?
They usually say, I just finished sealing a driveway in your neighborhood and I have a little left.
Right, and I will give that to you at a great price, at a discount, because it's my leftovers.
So you think that, well, if they did one in my neighborhood, they must be legit.
Absolutely.
And what happens?
Yeah, so it goes one of two ways usually. We often see that the product that they spray on your driveway isn't driveway sealant at all. It could be a combination of some kind of black or dark brown substance mixed with sand that's not going to serve the function that they say it's going to do by sealing the driveway. Or they might legitimately seal your driveway and want money and ask for a price that is way more than it should be.
Okay. And you pay them because you're thinking you're getting a good deal.
Sure, absolutely.
And you have to make a decision very quickly.
Yes.
And, you know, because the guy's here, if you don't want it, he's going to go to your neighbor.
Yes,
your neighbor's going to get the leftover stuff or whatever.
Right, right.
Okay, and that could cost somebody a couple $1,000s, I should think.
It should, because some of the stuff that they put down could even damage your driveway if it's not true driveway sealant. What we urge people to do in cases like this is, again, be a little bit suspicious. Say, do you have a number that I could call you back at if I'm interested at a later time? Or if you're just getting a bad feeling about it, try to get as much information about that person as you can and report it to police. Law enforcement will come out to investigate and make sure that person's legit. But oftentimes what we see in cases like this, for example, they'll show up in a pickup truck with the bed of the pickup truck down and a tarp, for example, draped over the back of that pickup truck so nobody could see that license plate.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So they do that on purpose.
They do it on purpose because they know if somebody gets suspicious and they try to collect information, they're not going to be able to get any because they can't see that license plate.
Well, most people don't keep a couple $1,000s in the house, so how do they
Sure.
get paid? They write a check?
Yeah, oftentimes they'll write a check. Absolutely.
Scam artist goes straight to the bank,
Yes.
cashes it, gone.
It's
See you later.
cashed, and they're out of the area before you even know what happened.
All right. So what other scams could take place at your front door that you have seen?
Sure, absolutely. So in addition to the driveway sealant scams, we also see a lot of other home repair scams. A common one is roofing, for example, siding repair, especially after a big storm rolls through. They'll knock on your front door again unsolicited and say, hey, I noticed your roof is missing some shingles. I noticed that it looks like it has some damage up there. I'll fix it for you for a great price, and I'll fix it quick. Is that okay? Again, hoping that you will say, yeah, absolutely. I didn't even realize it had damage there. And again, they will either collect payment, not finish the job, and be gone.
I've seen that too.
Yep, absolutely. Or they'll start the work, collect a partial payment, and be gone.
They'll say, well, we have to let it dry or we have to let it set or whatever it is. I'll be back in a few days, and then they never come back.
They never come back.
But you've already paid them.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So if a person says, hey, I'll get back to you, give me your phone number, then usually the scam artist is going to say, oh, no, I won't have the extra shingles or the extra paving or whatever it is, and then they'll just leave, right?
Exactly right. Like any other criminal, they're going to move on to an easier target. So if you start asking questions, if you start to get a little bit suspicious, chances are they're not going to want anything to do with it, and they're going to move on to an easier target.
All right. Well, that's so I guess the advice is ask questions.
Ask questions, absolutely.
Be a little suspicious, which is hard for a lot of people who, are comfortable in their neighborhoods and feel they know their community and the people around them. It's hard for them to be suspicious. It seems rude to them.
It does. It seems rude, and you hate giving people that advice, but unfortunately, in today's day and age, you have to have that in the back of your mind a little bit. Another one that we see, it's kind of an in-person type of scam, isn't necessarily a repair scam, but it's called a distraction burglary.
Okay, that sounds pretty serious.
It is pretty serious. So oftentimes, you'll get a knock on your door, again, unsolicited. There's a theme here. And you might see two, three people standing outside.
Well, wait a second. They could be political candidates. I've done that.
Oh, sure.
But if they're not.
Right. And they might claim to be from the water company or from the power company and saying, hey, we're having some problems with the lines here. Do you mind if you show us where your faucet is, where your sink is?
Or worse yet, in the basement.
In the basement. That's another big one. Show me
the
where
homeowner goes down the steps with one of the people. And
absolutely. The homeowner goes down the stairs with one of the people while the other two sneak in, perhaps upstairs to the bedroom where you keep a lot of your valuables, with the goal of taking your things, of burglarizing your house while you're distracted.
Your stuff.
Absolutely.
Right.
You might go for jewelry, cash that you have sitting around, anything valuable.
All right. I do know that in our area, in my area in Montgomery County, if it's the North Wales Water Authority, the North Penn Water Authority, Aqua, or PICO, or we have a couple boroughs that sell electricity, all of their employees do have ID cards.
Yes, absolutely. That's the important thing to look for. Don't be afraid to check for ID, because if they're legitimate, they're going to have an ID from that company. And furthermore, if you're still suspicious, call that company to ask if they have employees in the area.
But why you keep them on the front porch?
Absolutely.
So maybe they should say something like, oh, I'll be right with you, but my phone's ringing, and then lock the door and go in.
Sure.
Or something like that. We have to give people ways to get out of embarrassing situations.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to do that, because again, if the people are legitimately there, they're not going to have a problem with that.
Right. And I know that to be true too, that our local water authorities, sewer authorities, township people, they all understand that sometimes people pull scams.
Right. Absolutely. And you know what, too, if the overall theme here, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. We tell people all the time to trust your gut. And if you think something's not right or something's out of place, it probably is.
So the homeowner might be a woman, so women's intuition is a good thing to pay
Absolutely.
attention to, right?
Absolutely.
Always,
Trust it.
okay? Trust me on that. Always. So if you feel as though there's something not quite right, stop, wait,
Yes.
lock the door, and check it out.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to call 911. That's what the police are here for. We're here to come out to serve and protect. And if you think something's not right, we're not going to mind one bit coming out to check it out.
Well, and the truth is, you might save your neighbors from the scam artist as well as yourself. So it's kind of worth doing if you think there's something not quite right.
Right.
I often notice in neighborhoods plain old white panel trucks, no markings, anything like that. Now, maybe it's because I'm a little bit suspicious as a person. I'm a lawyer. I'm always looking and analyzing. But is that a tell that there's no markings on the truck or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. It could be because, again, just like the people at your door, any legitimate vehicle that they're there with is going to have the company name on it.
Right.
The proper markings, the phone number for the company, the address of the company, and things like that. All
right. Is there anything, any other scam that we should be talking about? Because we're almost out of time here, but we want to make sure we protect people who are watching the show, and so they don't become victims.
Right. We covered a lot of the big ones that we in law enforcement see all too often. So again, the overriding theme here is don't feel bad about being a little bit skeptical, about being a little bit suspicious. And if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
All right. In addition to the grandma scheme, which is where a grandchild calls and asks for money or something like that, are there other phone scams that we should warn people about?
You know, they get very, very creative. So one thing that we never mentioned before is what's called spoofing. So spoofing, for those who don't know, is these scam artists have the ability to change the number that they're calling from.
Right, make it look as if it's from Kate Harper's office.
Absolutely.
Honest to God.
From your office or even from the local state police station, and that happens sometimes.
Oh, wow.
And it's very easy to do. It's very simple to get that software to be able to type in any number that you want to show up on that person's caller ID.
So you're looking at caller ID and you think Kate Harper or the state police are calling you, and it's not.
Right, right, absolutely.
It's one of these scam artists, and they used a number that would be trustworthy.
Sure.
In order to get you to pick up, because a lot of us just let the phone ring anymore. So.
Yeah, right. Another good word of advice is if you don't know the number that's calling you, let them leave a message. Because a lot of these scam artists will not leave voicemails if you don't pick your phone up.
Okay, and you can't trust that the number that's showing on your caller ID is actually the number.
It's not. And again, if they're legitimate, they're going to leave you a message or they're going to try to contact you some other way. That might be through a mailing, through some kind of official letter, or leave you a message to give them a call back.
Okay. Well, Corporal Reed, if it was your grandmother who was watching the program, is there anything else you'd like to add or say?
No, we covered a lot of the big ones, and we hope that everyone viewing will take some of this advice that we talked about and use it to their advantage to keep them safe and to protect their money.
Right, which is what we want to do.
Absolutely.
And I think you just have to be a little skeptical if you get a call you weren't expecting, or a knock on the door you weren't expecting, or a letter even.
Right, absolutely. That's the theme here. A lot of these scams are unsolicited. So they're either making a cold call to you or showing up at your door completely unexpected. So be a little bit wary.
All right, I think that's good advice. And that's all the time we have for today's program. My guest is Corporal Reed from the Pennsylvania State Police. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Had a lot of good information for us. And I'm State Representative Kate Harper. If you need assistance with this or any state government matter, please feel free to contact me at my local office. The address and phone number will be shown in just a moment on your screen. Thanks for watching. Please join us again for Legislative Review.